We need to talk recession, rolling recession, hard landing, soft landing, no landing. What the heck is going on in the U.S. economy with the one and only Taylor from LifeGoal Investments? What's going on, man?
Holy smokes. This is the bazillion dollar question right now is how
No
do we
doubt.
navigate this, right? Um, uh, you know, right now the market is priced where this is absolutely going to be a soft landing. The
Okay.
market is, I mean, you look at technical indicators, you look at fundamental indicators right now, they are all screaming, hey, the market is over our skis saying this is absolutely going to be a soft landing.
So do me
Now,
a
it's
favor
not.
for the audience. Define what you think the market thinks a soft landing is, because there's no clear definition. What is Taylor, when you say soft landing, what are kind of the metrics?
Yeah, I think that means where the Fed can proceed at its rate cuts that it's intending to do in the future, cut rates and has brought inflation down, that it's able to cut rates, keep our economic growth positive, and never have it dip at all into negative territory from a GDP perspective. That's the definition of a soft landing to me. Is that a fair
So
assessment on your end?
yeah, so let's break it down. When for the average person, the Fed has these two mandates, right? Stable prices and full employment. And let's just throw in GDP. Let's put some numbers for folks. So GDP, it's reported quarterly.
Mhm.
A soft landing would mean it never goes negative. Is that fair?
Yep, I think that's a fair
Okay.
assessment.
So unemployment, again, reported monthly, Bureau of Economic Labor and Statistics. I think it was last reported at 3.7. Would you
Mhm.
say a soft landing sees unemployment not exceed 4.2%? So it goes up, but
Yeah,
nothing crazy?
the number that hit in my head was 4.5%, but yeah, I
Okay.
think that's probably a fair assessment right in that ballpark.
All right. And then inflation, again, it continues its trend lower, albeit slower than expected. That's kind of the soft landing variables.
That you got them all spot on. That's absolutely
Okay.
right. And one of the big outstanding things that I think people are underappreciating is the potential for stickier inflation.
I agree.
Stickier inflation is the big thing that is underappreciated right now. And so if that takes place, the Fed's not going to be able to cut as quickly. And so then that potentially forces them into a corner where they keep them high for too long and they make a
Mhm.
policy mistake. And that does force us into recession.
Yeah, I agree. So let's go into hard landing. So hard landing, I think, it's been classically understood as a recession. When you look at those charts and the gray bars, GDP goes negative, unemployment spikes, you know, all of these things happen. So when you say a hard landing, obviously GDP is negative for at least 2 quarters,
Mhm.
if not longer.
Mhm.
And would it be fair to say that unemployment would go from 3.7 to probably north of 6?
Yeah, I was in more of the 5 camp because again, we've got some structural things going on that keeps unemployment relatively low right now. And if we were to have a Republican come into office and immigration wasn't quite as welcomed as it has been more recently, that would also drive a potentially lower unemployment number. But yeah, what you will see there is a pretty significant shock higher in unemployment data, and so people know, and you and I have discussed this. Unemployment is the ultimate lagging economic indicator. It always is at its lowest point when you enter a recession, on the
Mhm.
onset of a recession. And you don't know you're in a recession until 6 months or so in the rearview mirror, sometimes up till 9 months. You don't know
Mhm.
it's here, but what you have is that shock higher in unemployment very, very quickly. And when you look at some of the unemployment data right now, yes, the actual number is low, but also the average hourly work week is also low. And so historically, that's a leading economic indicator versus the lagging economic indicator. And we just came through a point of time where our supply demand gap of workers was as out of whack as it ever has been. And people were
Mhm.
just having to compete and compete and compete for that worker. So they're not going to go out and just lay people off and potentially face that same scenario 6 months down the road when they realize they probably shouldn't have. Instead, what
Mhm.
they're going to do is cut hours. And what
Yeah.
we're seeing is that's taking place right now.
Yeah. Cut hours, eat margin. They don't want to do that again.
Yep.
Now let's talk about a rolling recession, right? A
Mhm.
rolling recession has always been one of these theories. Given all of the money created, over the last couple of years, I think there's a lot of, I think there's a fair amount of chance that we actually have what's called a rolling recession. What do you think?
Yep. Yeah, and you've seen it in your space.
Oh
right?
yeah.
You've seen it that you've been the epicenter of this space in real estate. That is the number one thing the Fed can come after is new real estate transactions. Because if you go from a 3% mortgage rate on a 30-year basis to 8%, you're going to slow down buying.
You're going to
Guaranteed.
slow down transactions.
Very, very well put. Very well put. Yep.
Yeah.
And so that took place. Tech experienced it.
Yeah.
2022 was a
SaaS
brutal year for
companies.
tech.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. And so, now what tech is starting to experience is, hey, where can we create efficiencies? They're
Right.
laying people off left and right, and maybe some AI allows them to do that and maintain kind of their current trajectory of whatever product and enhancement they're trying to bring to market. But yeah, there's definitely a chance that could have played out. And it is just a weird time. There's no way to discount the fact that we've never shut the economy down before in the history of the world. When you said, listen, you guys can't go to work. You can't bring in new customers. You can't do any of
Wild.
this. It's a crazy thought. If you were to say that going to happen in the future, the government says you're a restaurant owner, you can't have new clients. You can't bring customers in. We would be like, you're crazy. This is the dumbest thing
Oh
I've ever heard.
yeah.
And
Dumbest thing
that's
I've
not a
ever.
political comment as to what we did in the past.
No,
I'm
it was
saying
the dumbest
that's
thing
just
we
a
ever heard.
crazy thought.
No,
Right.
I'm okay with that. What? I
Okay.
mean, it was.
Okay.
It was,
Okay.
it was
You're on board with that.
dumb. Okay.
So
But
yeah,
I think
that's my rolling kind of thought. I think that there's definitely a fair chance that takes place.
yeah. So a rolling recession, just so people can look for it, really what you're going to see is you're going to see different parts of the economy crash, i.e., real estate, and then it will come back as other sectors roll in, maybe manufacturing. And I think if you look at the numbers, you'll see below trend growth. So maybe in a soft landing, you have GDP numbers at like 2%. I think a rolling recession positive, but probably sub 1%, right? It's below trend. You also probably see unemployment go up. Maybe if a soft landing is 4.2, maybe a rolling recession is 4.5 or 4.6. So it doesn't explode to 5, doesn't go to 6 like we talked about in a hard landing. You just have labor kind of moving around. Um, there's a lot there. But let's talk about the no landing. No landing has started to come around. Like the Fed has officially gotten rid of recessions. You believe any of
Victory
that
lap,
nonsense?
baby. Victory lap, baby. Yeah. It's hard to conceptualize that. It is hard to listen. I understand fixed rate debt is a different thing now, but it's not like everyone had floating rate debt back in the day. That's, it was something like 15% of households, and you might be able to do a better job on this.
Yeah.
Mortgage historically was floating rate versus post 2008. Now it's in like that 3-4% camp. That means,
Right.
More fixed rate at 3% or at 5%, whatever it is. And that biggest household expense is kept low. But listen, rising interest rates, I don't care if it's just talking about mortgages. Move on. Let's look at things like credit card debt. Credit card
Car
debt right
loans.
now,
Yep.
car
Yep.
loans, etc. Businesses going out and trying to source capital. That's why
Yep.
small caps have lagged so much behind large caps. They're
Mhm.
companies that need to finance their operations through public market cash.
Yep.
And so with that, it is hard to conceptualize the fact that you look throughout history, when the Fed gets on the brakes, we go into recession.
Yeah.
And 1994 is a case where you could point to a soft landing after the Fed got on the brakes and navigated its way through it. But historically, the track record's not very damn
Not,
good when it
not
comes
very
to
good.
curbing inflation with higher interest rates. And the track record's not great.
All right. Well, let's just close with this meaty question. Is your current prognostication, guess, prediction, crystal ball, say we have an official recession called sometime in 2024? Maybe it's called in early 25, but it points at 2024. What do you think?
Kind of, to use a vulgar term, gun to my head, probably yes. And I don't have a ton of conviction in that. What I do have a ton of conviction is the fact the market is not anticipating that whatsoever.
No,
And
I agree.
where things are
Yeah.
priced right now. So Morgan Housel, do you know Morgan Housel? He's
Yeah,
an awesome
absolutely.
financial writer.
Yeah.
He's a writer, he's a podcaster, he's all those things. And he's the best of anybody that I've ever heard breaking things down into very, very tangible bites. He uses stories to create financial lessons and true historical stories. He's incredibly entertaining to listen to. And he actually stole this quote from someone else. So I'm referencing him. He referenced someone else. But he said, invest with, here we go. Don't invest with prediction, invest with preparation. Predicting when a recession's coming is a fool's errand. But having yourself prepared for when the inevitable does hit at some point, you don't know when it's coming, and you
Mhm.
don't know what's going to drive us into a recession. Anyone know that COVID was going to take place here in 2020 and force our market into free fall for a month? No, no one knew that. And so prepare, don't predict, because you can't do it effectively over time.
Taylor, you're amazing. Again, your 60 seconds on Instagram are must watch. Where can people get them?
No, you're the man, Michael. Yeah, it's at LifeGoal Investments. We're on Instagram and on TikTok, and we will start to be everywhere else here soon too. So
There you go. Thank you so much.